Always has been.
I just, you know, if you look
Or
at the
Iran.
demographic.
Dubai, and Iran as well, exactly.
Yes,
It's a big advantage for Dubai over Abu Dhabi.
So is there such a thing as a Middle East region, really?
But I think that, you
I'll
know,
give you something very bizarre. I was with the Portuguese ambassador the other day. He's accredited here. They're going to start an embassy. And I said, which is the biggest Portuguese business? He says, oh, Banco Espírito Santo. And I said, it's what, one man and a dog? They said, no, they're managing billions. They're managing billions? A Portuguese bank nobody ever heard of? I said, yes, it's Angolan money. Money that they cannot manage. So, look at the link now. So you have the dictatorship of Angola, which is kleptomania personified, because it's a bunch of Marxists who've been in power for 20 years, producing 2.5 million barrels a day, and they've accumulated billions of dollars, and part of that is being managed by a Portuguese bank in the DIFC. Now that makes you a global hub, I would think, right?
So can we come to a consensus first to the question and then to the 5 points that support the question, or do we stick with the question which says there's not a question, it's the Middle East cannot support more than one business hub? Argue against or for the motion and provide 5 points to support your view. So, can the Middle East support more than one business hub? What's the view?
yes.
In this period, okay, yes. So again, let's come up with 5 arguments that support that particular view.
I think the Middle East is so diverse. Also, it's very hard. You're going to, as you said, you're cutting through so many different barriers, and how can you homogenize that? Whereas, for example, I think the success of Dubai over other GCC hubs has been the fact that they've been able to play down that cultural identity or religious identity, which is
there
why
another way
attract.
of saying that point that
Yeah, exactly.
the Middle East can support more than one business hub because,
Of the
firstly,
diversity.
it's geographically
It's so diverse.
separated, that there aren't definitive territories.
Definitely.
North
You've got
Africa,
the
there's
GCC, you've got the Levant, you've got North Africa,
Can we agree
the
as that was
culture.
one point?
Yes.
And I think
I would
it's
also say Stuart's point of time. They're just ahead of everybody else.
Or some areas that are rich in capital versus others that need
Human capital, but no
Lebanon
finance.
versus
Yes.
Or Egypt,
Need
look
money.
at the education, but then, I mean, look at
Their
the
infrastructure.
infrastructure.
Can't live there.
PhD guy driving a taxi cab, poor guy,
I had an opportunity and with a package that probably I would have made easily twice as much as I'm making here, and I opted not to.
Because lifestyle supersedes and trumps.
Because it's even more dangerous on the roads there than it is here.
East and West.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, and there'll have to be 24-hour desks, and that. It's like anything. It's a subsidiary of what we're talking about.
But ADIA now, for example, would have a 24-hour desk in Abu Dhabi Investments.
Okay. Exactly, yeah, because there is a little bit of the shut up shop here, and the weekend. I mean, will that ever change? That's another issue they'll be looking at here in terms of becoming a global hub.
The dollar euro dollar sterling rate doesn't move on a Saturday and Sunday, and yet we're open on Sunday. There's a whole.
So the standardization, maybe even in the region.
What I said to you earlier about the time clock starting in Sydney, Tokyo, moving to Hong Kong, Singapore, and then you might get Mumbai in, dependent. But then there's a wait until 11 o'clock in the morning here for 8 o'clock in Europe, or for 8 o'clock in the UK, 9 o'clock in Europe.
Small part.
David, how
But-
long are you here?
Huh?
In Sweden?
Tolerance.
David, is it?
Kind of gets
How long are you
captured
in this region?
under the-
I've lived here.
Where within the English speaking?
within the human capital.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
I've listened
Human
to you more
capital is
than
about
speak.
attracting it in,
You obviously know the place pretty
developing it
well.
locally.
Yourself and the two Davids.
To David's.
Well, I was involved.
Tell me, this is something, I have traveled 45 countries. I've worked in 10.
So what would a number 5 for us be if we want to put another number 5? I mean, I actually think, more attention to corporate governance, and I actually think it probably is. I know you're just fed up talking about it, but the people here, and you're fed up listening to it.
No, but I've seen the casualties of it. I've seen the graveyard. I've seen what results from over-regulation.
But as well as that, I'm
But
talking
you
more the
have it- but
governance
you have it
within
there.
companies, within family companies that are maybe not regulated, the fact
But
that
did we not
actually
did we not get it in terms of your
the
point number
regulation.
one there?
But you don't regulate corporate governance. I think it has to be a mentality.
But I think we've missed the Man United, Real Madrid's being here. Like you can have all of those things there, but you will not necessarily attract the global brands. That really, if I'm in Wall Street and I am I'm Jamie Dimon, I'm sort of saying, yeah, look, I may have to have something in the Middle East. But we go back to what David sort of
But
said.
are they
You
not
put people
here?
there rather than talent there.
There's something
Yeah.
here that says that the first four we've talked about are necessary.
Yes.
Are necessary, but that they're not. They will not make it happen all on their own, and maybe that's where David's stuff comes in.
Right, so
Where's
they're
the
kind
bit
of
magic?
individually. Huh?
Does buy or penny centre from all of the others that
But
have
where
those
you
four
have to
things
feel
already.
safe bringing your money in here, and I think, do you not see the whole issue of corporate governance on a much wider scale, rather than just about it tied up in terms of regulatory issues?
I think business-friendly political environment is more important, and that covers that to some extent.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Because
You need it.
what you need is where there's no surprises. The fact is, if there are rules in place, if we know what the rules are, they're not actually going to change. They're sustainable. I think it's when people start to change the rules after a little while, that gives a certain unease to the business community. To say, look, we're a business-friendly environment, and the only reason we're changing rules is to make it more business-friendly. It's not to actually make it more difficult.
I think it's better to make it a positive like that than sort of put a nail into the system with the governance issue. I think that.
But I don't think the governance issue is putting a nail into the system. I think it's
As a separate item, it gives it a status that I believe is unnecessarily high. If you want to put legal, regulatory, and governance
Yeah.
into one.